Well, hello there. PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X. Which is better in 2022? It's been over 18 months since the release of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X back in the dark times of November 2020. Both consoles have come far since then, so it's time to see how they stack up to one another after it's been enough time for updates to come out and games to be developed. And in this video, we'll be comparing 15 aspects of both consoles. Whichever console is better will be awarded a point for each aspect, and we'll see who comes out victorious at the end of the video. Let's get into it. Number 1, hardware. It's widely believed that overall the Xbox is more powerful, but when I take a deeper dive into the specs of both consoles, it's actually not as simple as you're going to see in this table, which outlines the details of every single component of each console. So we're going to start with the RAM. PlayStation has 16GB of DDR6 RAM and a 256-bit bus, while the Series X also has 16GB of DDR6 RAM and a 320-bit bus. The bandwidth of the RAM is 448GB a second for PS5, and for Xbox 10GB is clocked at 560GB a second. However, only those 10GB are allocated to games, whereas there is no limit to the memory allocation for games on the PS5. The other 6GB, clocked at 335GB a second, is allocated to the OS and other programs the Xbox runs. The CPU for the PS5, 8-core Zen 2 at 3.5 GHz, and for the Series X, 8-core Zen 2 at 3.8 GHz, so it's better for the Xbox. GPU, PS5 puts out 10.28 teraflops a second. The Xbox also has custom AMD Radeon RDNA GPU, and it can do 12 teraflops. The Xbox produces more teraflops, and therefore is more powerful. Both consoles can do 4K 120 and 8K 30. The PS5's hard drive, or the SSD, the internal one, that's soldered to the board, can process a sequential read speed of 5.5 GB a second raw and 8 to 9 GB compressed, while the Xbox is capped at 2.4 GB raw, 4.8 GB compressed. So the PS5's has a faster load time, in theory, by a long mile. Storage, Xbox has more storage, no doubt about that, and also the Xbox drive is removable, whereas the PS5 drive is soldered to the motherboard. You ain't getting that thing off. Backwards compatibility for PS4 games and PSVR games on the PlayStation 5, and that's only selected PS4 games. There's a full list. I'll put a link in the description of where you can see all the games it can run. Xbox, a bit more diverse. Xbox One, backwards compatibility, accessories, and 360 games, so that's a bit better on the Xbox. Both consoles have some form of remote play. PlayStation can quick resume a single game, you can leave it running in suspension, while Xbox can quick resume multiple games at once, so Xbox is better on that front. We'll analyse the subscription services separately. They both have 3 USB 3.0s. Well, the PlayStation has a USB-C, so that's a little bit something extra. PlayStation's Wi-Fi card is in theory a little bit better. Xbox doesn't support Wi-Fi 6. That being said, when I tested the bandwidth on the Xbox is just as good, if not, I saw an average higher clock of megabits a second. Removable hard drive, as I said, for the Xbox, no for the PlayStation, so that's better if ever you want to upgrade the Xbox hard drive. Cloud storage, yes. Please download, yes. Remote play, yes on both. Can't access on multiple, yes for both. Mandatory game install, yes for both. Blah blah blah, this stuff is less important, but you can see that the Xbox can do a little bit more on the software side than the PlayStation, so this point is without a doubt going to go to the Xbox. Number 2, the total units sold for each console. PS5 has sold 21.4 million units, and the Xbox Series X has sold 15.08 million units combined with the Series S. That will put the point firmly in PlayStation's court, and if it was a popularity contest, PlayStation is going to win it. And number 3, we have the total games for each console. What do you do with a video game console? You play video games, so this is a pretty important one. PS5 has 499 PS5 games available for purchase, while the Xbox Series X has 361 games available for purchase. So this point will be going to PlayStation. Up next, we have number 4, console exclusives. The PS5 has 46 exclusives, which I'll display on screen now, while the Series X has 34 exclusives, and I'll display on screen now. Comes to me as no surprise that PS5 has more exclusives, as that's part of Sony's ethos, so at this point we'll be going into PlayStation. For number 5, we have the number of games for each console that support 4K 120. PS5 supports 26 games at 4K 120 frames a second, while the Xbox Series X supports 90 games at 4K 120. So the Xbox has something called FPS boost, and that's why the Xbox has many more games that support 120, which is awesome, and that point will be going to Xbox. Number 6, total games sold for each console. And I wanted to do a list or a total of the number of units of games sold for each console, but both Microsoft and Sony keep that information under lock and key, so no one will be getting the point for that. Number 7, the UI. Both user interfaces are slick and easy to navigate. I'll start with the PS5. The PlayStation menu is neatly arranged into tabs that you can quickly navigate to and from, with the main tabs being games and media. The Store and PS Plus apps are prominent within the game tabs, and you can easily see both of them. Then there's the cards menu, which shows you a host of other functions and has further hidden menus within it, like trophies and the game hub for friends. It doesn't take more than a few seconds to reach anything I want, and I very quickly learned where everything is. Now for the Xbox menu. Unlike PlayStation, both games and media can be found on the home screen, with the games at the top of the media underneath. Similar to PlayStation, the last app used will appear at the top left, but unlike PlayStation, you can customize the home screen to look how you want, which is cool, and it also has themes that you can customize, a feature lacking in the PS5 to this day. Xbox also has a quick menu similar to the PlayStation cards, where you can access your friends, parties, settings and more. The Xbox does lack a few things PlayStation doesn't, like the search icon above the menu and the settings on the main menu, but PlayStation is lacking more than Xbox. Overall, both UIs are very similar in quality and design, but the customization options give the Xbox a firm leg up, and I'd expect nothing less from the company that makes the most widely used computer operating system in the world, and this point will be going to Xbox. Number 8, accessories. The PS5 has 10 main accessories, while the Xbox Series X only has 7 main accessories, so this point will be going to PlayStation. Number 9, memory expansion. The PS5 has a port that supports NVMe M.2 SSD between 250GB and 4000GB, so you can choose your SSD in the size you want at the price you want. Some disassembly is required, and the best SSD that you can buy has a whopping sequential read speed of 7.4GB a second. The Xbox Series X, however, has a specific Seagate brand expansion only, which you can buy in 512GB, 1TB and 2TB, and it's capped at 2.4GB a second, just like the internal SSD. So this point will be going to PlayStation. Number 10, the controller. Both controllers actually feel very similar in the hand. Sony's changed the PS5 controller to feel nearly identical to the Xbox controller's ergonomic design, which fits the hand like a glove, while conversely Microsoft has added a share button. It didn't take me all that long to get used to the Xbox controller after years of being a PlayStation user. While actually gaming, there's very little difference that I could tell. The PlayStation controller does have a few extra features like the adaptive triggers, haptic feedback, and a speaker in the controller that, when utilised properly, often only by first-party developers, can add a real sense of immersion into the game. The touchpad and gyroscope add some sense of ease of access, the typing where these features are lacking in the Xbox controller, and you also cannot set the Xbox controller timeout function of 15 minutes, unlike the PlayStation where you can set the timer to whatever you want, including to never turn off. And this is going to firmly tip the scale in the favour of PlayStation, and I'll be giving PlayStation the point for the controller. Number 11, subscription service. Given PS Plus's recent expansions include 3 tiers of increasing value, just like Xbox Game Pass, I can sense that this one is going to be tight. So we're going to start with PS Plus, which the top tier has 400 games. We'll have a quick look now. So PS Plus has 3 tiers: Essential, Extra, and Premium. Now Premium has up to 400 games, including mostly modern games, PS4, PS5, and some classics, so PS1, 2, and 3, while Xbox Series X Game Pass Gold has 300 games. Now, looking at Xbox Game Pass, which is very similar to PS Plus, although it has less games, many PS Plus games are old and I think they'll likely appeal to a small audience, and Xbox will add day one releases of AAA games to Game Pass, unlike PlayStation. So for the subscription service, I'm going to have to give the point to Xbox. Number 12, console native features. There's too many to go over, so I'm going to quickly run them across the screen. The PS5 has 27 native features that I can find from my research, while the Xbox has 30 native features that I can find from my research. Now, some features PlayStation has but Xbox doesn't, and vice versa, but overall, since Xbox has more features, I'm going to have to give the point to Xbox. 13, graphics. So Xbox has a slightly wider colour gamut which is why we see Xbox looking a little bit more vibrant than PS5. But PS5's colour gamut more closely resembles that of real life. The quality of both graphics is basically the same, so whichever is better comes down to a matter of personal preference. And as this is meant to be a non-biased review, I will award both consoles a point. And you should let me know in the comments whether you prefer colour or realism. Number 14, studios and studio acquisitions. So Sony has 23 studios, and it's also gone on a number of studio acquisitions over the last year or so. Microsoft, however, has been on something of a buying spree over the last couple of years, with huge deals for Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, bringing Microsoft's total studio count to a whopping 32, firmly giving the point for game studios to Xbox. Number 15, last but not least, aesthetics. Both console manufacturers really stepped up their game from Generation 7 to Generation 8. I really love the new look of both consoles. The console case need to be fit for purpose to house and protect and even cool the components, but that doesn't mean that they can't look awesome while they do that. Microsoft decided to stick with the geometric polygonal shape. They actually split the motherboard in two so the console could fit in a more compact space, which is cool. It looks very sleek and it has a green parallax in the air intake, which is a very nice touch. Sony, on the other hand, built the PlayStation 5 case around the massive motherboard and the other components to create the biggest game console ever in history at a whopping 390mm by 260 by 104. That being said, the PS5 does look like it came straight out of Cyberpunk 2077 with its futuristic look and sleek black and white finish and the customizable faceplates. I think this one is going to have to go for PlayStation for its uniqueness and for breaking the streak of geometric consoles across the board. There we have it, PlayStation is the winner by a very narrow margin. Both consoles are good in their own right, as you can see from this video. Feel free to leave a comment, what you think, do you agree, do you disagree, did I miss something? Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you in the next video.